Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today I am so pumped up for today's video. Today we are going to do another good on bad on the newly released Kanye album Donda. Well, I must say it wasn't really Kanye that released it, more like Universal, because, well, if you didn't know, Universal was the one who dropped this album without Kanye's approval. So props to them, I guess. So Donda. Now, first of all, a quick note before we start. I am not going to include part 2 songs in this review. That means I'm not going to include songs like Jail Part 2 or Junya Part 2. So yeah, I'm just going to stick around with the original 23 songs of the track list for this video. And before we start, I must say I was really surprised when this album dropped like a day and a half ago, considering like Kanye's history with announced but unreleased albums, like Yandi on 2018. Yeah, and when Donda has been around when Donda has been around people's mouth for like the whole past year, I really was getting scared if Kanye actually didn't plan to drop this at all. So it's good to know that Donda actually dropped and it won't go down the same pathway as Yandi, and now we get to grasp this album more, we get to listen to this album. So let's start off with this good or bad review. Now, starting off with the advantages, I guess you can say. First of all, the production value is very impressive and very interesting in this album, because I guess I can say that every song or every little segment in this album has its own unique sound. And what that means is that this whole album is fairly versatile. It's not repetitive like other albums. And what this helps with my listening experience is that this album really keeps me intrigued every time I listen to it, even though it's roughly like an hour and 40 minutes. And therefore, when it keeps me intrigued to listen to it, each listen I get a lot more from what Kanye has to offer in this album. I really do love the smaller touch in this as well, like the Lauryn Hill sample in the beginning of Believe What I Say, or the whistling in Remote Control. And I really like how this album completely absorbs me. It didn't really give me much break to like break down every single songs into to sharing my to I don't know what to say. Like, this album completely absorbs me, and so I really just let this album flowing each time I listen to it, just so it feels more complete. It didn't feel incomplete at all, and I really give a lot of credit to Kanye for that. Now, the second pros of this album is how this is probably, in my opinion, Kanye's rap or Kanye's pen game at his best, because he's not the craziest thoughtful or lyrical kind of rapper. But I don't know, his verses on here, his raps on here really work well, because his storytelling on some of the introspective songs on here were really good. And then he also have his verses on some of the more harder banger tracks on this, and those verses really do add up to the energy, right? And you also have the more catchier hooks as well, like the song Junya. Like, I really cannot get over on how catchy that song is. Like, bro, Junya Watanabe on my that's a banger right there. That's a banger. Okay, so on to my next pro of this album is the very surprising features. So basically, before this album turned up, I basically like muted all the features, all the leaks, and therefore I really wanted to keep myself surprised with this album, and this album really just did that. Most of the features on here really outdid themselves. We have such a packed feature list in this album, and most of them really outdid themselves. Like, you have some of the most outstanding ones on here, like the very levitating song Moon, which features Don Toliver, and Kid Cudi. Absolutely love that song. You also have singer Vori on songs like God Breathe. I have never listened to his music, but he did really well on here, in my opinion. And also you have Vivio Foreign, who rap really hard on Off the Grid. And then of course you have the more bigger names like The Weeknd or Roddy Ricch. They still did their thing. And then of course you have the thoughtful or lyrical guest verses in here like Jay Electronica, Griselda, and Jay-Z. Even Jay-Z mentioned on Watch the Throne, the sequel to Watch the Throne, which if it does happen, then it will be very exciting to me. Now, on to my last advantage of this album is how this album showed much more progression than a lot of other albums, especially in Kanye's discography, right? In this album, he channeled a lot more energy and emotions than I expected. So this album, Donda, it was named after his late mother, and Donda had such a big part in this album. You feel me? Donda had some of the verses on this thing. Donda, this kind of like Donda theme sort of becomes the key to Kanye channeling his emotions and what he had to say in this album. And let's just compare this album to his older works like The College Dropout or Late Registration. You can hear the sheer difference between between his music, between what he has to say, his perspective, his production value as well. So now onto my outro of this album, yeah. So this album, it's not my favorite from Kanye, but there were a lot of strong cohesive points in this thing. As I mentioned all the advantages of this album just now, and I myself can see this becoming my top 3 Kanye albums in the near future. However, it's not that, I wouldn't describe this album as that amazing because there are not a lot, but like 3 to 4 tracks that are somewhat unnecessary. Like, it's always the shorter tracks as well, like Tell the Vision or New Again. They didn't really do much on this album. They didn't have any impact. They were easily skippable songs as well, but let's just say that I am pleasantly surprised of this album after all the wait, all the hype. So on to our last question in this video. Is this album good or bad? I have to say this album is good, and I can see this album growing on me a lot more in the near future. So that's all from me for today. Before that, I just want to say something. So basically, currently, we have 174 subscribers, and 26 more, we can hit 200 subscribers. And I don't know, tomorrow is 1st September. Some of you may know, some of you may not. Maybe something. No, I'm just joking around. So yeah, if you want to like know my personal favorite songs or least favorite songs, you can always check the description down below. Any disagreements or opinions you think I got wrong, you can always leave down in the comment section down below. So before I close this video, sorry, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. That's all from me, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.